Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Friday Ramblings. We are here to once again break down all things that are awesome in entertainment, especially that's a little bit nostalgic. It's time to continue our series on the Disney afternoon with the iconic, and in recent times, pop culture relevant, which we'll get to at the tail end here, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. Now, like the previously discussed Tailspin, Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers was not so much a continuation of an existing concept, but a reimagining of classic characters. Tailspin took the base characters from Jungle Book and put them in an entirely new world with a new supporting staff. Same thing with Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. The original Chip 'n Dale cartoons showed Chip 'n Dale as a pair of mischievous chipmunks, often bouncing against other established characters like Donald and Mickey. Whereas in this, they not only are completely out on their own as the lead stars, but are now much more human behaving, as they now have clothes and are interacting in a world full of humans while having a brand new support staff of characters backing them up. The fun part of this is, of course, that Chip 'n Dale's basic personalities, which are now a little more divergent than the classic cartoons, are also homages to classic TV characters. Dale, with his laid-back attitude and Hawaiian shirt, drew references to Magnum P.I., whereas Chip, with his bomber jacket and swanky hat, drew parallels to such classic characters as Indiana Jones, including the point of frequently using a rope to lasso opponents and swing around, much like Indiana Jones did with his whip. This is all good fun. As I said, wonderful homages to established characters. Basic setup is that Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers sees Chip 'n Dale, who, having been allies of the canine police force in their local city, become inspired to act as private detectives on their own for the various critters in society. Thus, they are rescue rangers. However, they do not do this alone. They are, in their first mission, joined up by a group of buddies and fellow adventurers. First up is Monterey Jack, often shorthanded to Monty, a adventure-loving Australian mouse who is often portrayed as the oldest and most world-experienced of the Rescue Rangers, as he had already traveled around the world a couple of times in his constant pursuit of adventure. Upon getting dragged into the Rangers' first adventure, he decides that, hey, he can hang with these guys and still get all the excitement his life craves. One of his iconic roles in the show was his addiction to cheese, to the point that even taking a whiff of it puts him in a hypnotic trance in which nothing will stop him, even going so far as having bouts of near super strength to get to the cheese in question and devour it. Now, Monty's long-standing sidekick was, of course, Zipper the housefly. He is unwaveringly loyal and the only one who does not speak English, his communication being a series of high-pitched buzzes that everybody else seems to understand. Zipper is the one that tends to most often save the day near the end of the episode, because the bad guys love to overlook the smallest rescue ranger. Not to mention that Zipper is the ranger most likely to lay it all on the line for any of his friends. Zipper's a cool guy like that. The crew is rounded out with the in-house mechanic and only female member, the blonde-haired mouse Gadget Hackwrench. She joins the crew due to the fact that her recently deceased father was a good friend of Monterey Jack, and therefore he goes to her looking for her father for aid, only to find out she has grown up to be every bit the mechanic and pilot that her father was, and proves to be just as reliable in the clutch. She also provides a little bit of romantic comedy shenanigans, as both Chip and Dale tend to have a deep-seated crush on her and will occasionally compete for her affections. Most of the time she is oblivious to these attempts. Unfortunately, like most somewhat isolated geniuses that tend to take after their parent, Gadget also tends to be the most naive of the greater world around her, having had few friends and social contacts outside of her father before joining the Rescue Rangers. Still, she is a classic character of the series and the backbone of the team, being the one that, through Chip and Dale's crushes on her and her connections to Monterey Jack and Zipper predating the show, is the one that basically the entire little social web of the group seems to center around. Yes, Chip and Dale were good buddies before the show, naturally, but hey, they're also opposite, so they tend to butt heads a lot. Still, even when Chip and Dale are furious at each other, when push comes to shove, they will always be there to back their brother up. So, where does that leave us on the bad guy front? Well, the most recurring and iconic is Fat Cat, a mafioso gray tabby cat who tends to be behind most of the schemes, either directly or indirectly by employing other villains. He has a team of various animals who work as his hired enforcers. We also have a rat crime lord, Rat Capone, who has some enforcers of his own. Professor Norton Nimnol, one of the few human antagonists on the show, a mad scientist who shows up a handful of times himself, all leading to the fact that he routinely gets stopped by the Rangers. There's, of course, a variety of other one-shot villains who show up, including a scheming female mouse who is a dead ringer for Gadget, and thus we get some identity swapping shenanigans. Fun part of all this is that, as I said, it was a major factor of the Disney afternoon and ran for 65 episodes covering 3 seasons, originally airing in the spring of 1989 and concluding in the fall of 1990. Although it should be noted, in the summer of '88, they did air a preview episode, not the original, as the series premiere, much like things like G.I. Joe and Transformers before it, was a multi-part saga that originally aired as one big movie that, when aired in reruns and syndication, was split up into 5 separate episodes. So, what kind of legacy does the Rescue Rangers leave? Well, besides the fact that, as I said, like the previous Tailspin, it cemented the idea in the minds of many Disney animators and writers that they could take classic characters and reinvent them for modern times. This would be seen a few other times in the future with other characters. And more importantly, did something that was rare in a lot of Disney cartoons, which is have that mix of anthropomorphic animals, i.e. animals that act like they're humans, and human beings sharing the same world. I mean, let's face it, your classic Mickey Mouse stuff, no humans. DuckTales, you'd see a couple different species, but no humans. Rescue Rangers, though, we had humans wandering around. And, well, most of them weren't 100% aware of how the critters acted. A couple that did, like the aforementioned Norton Nimnal, didn't seem super freaked out about it. More concerned with how they were stopping him from taking over the world than the fact that, hey, chipmunks and mice can talk and are just as smart as he is mechanically. The show would also spawn 2 video games for the NES, which are part of the modern day and available on modern platforms Disney Afternoon Collection. The obviously named Rescue Rangers and Rescue Rangers 2, which are very fun platform games, in which in both games you play as Chip and Dale, the other characters lending assistance during the levels. Most key of which being Zipper, who, when he is found, works as the game's equivalent to the invincibility mode, as he will, for a short term, fly around the stage and take out any enemy before they can touch the playable characters. Most recently, of course, is the fact that the show got a live-action / animated metafictional sequel film that recently premiered on Disney+. For the sake of being positive, we're not going to discuss that film, mostly because, frankly, metafictional stuff, especially serving as sequels to old films, is extremely hard to do. We've discussed the inherent awkwardness of these kind of shows and plot lines in previous episodes when discussing people trying to revive nostalgia acts. Still, there is an audience for the Rescue Rangers to this day, and leading up to the film, Disney Plus freely aired the show for people to watch to get back into the Rescue Rangers. So, good on ya. Ultimately, though, hey, was it a good show? That's the key point. The answer simply is yes. There are many great episodes that show both the team dynamic and how well all the different personalities meshed together and supported each other, as well as episodes designed to highlight individual characters. My personal favorite would probably have to be the one surrounding the Cola Cult. This is a group of soda-worshipping mice who are led by a corrupt church head. However, before he can be fully exposed, Gadget, who finds herself feeling less than 100% useful to the team, finds herself joining into the cult. It's an interesting take on a subject that was a little heavy for children, which is the idea that not all religious groups are necessarily on the up and up, especially on the leadership side, as well as Gadget's drop in self-esteem causing some depression issues, and in her depression being lured in by what are essentially con artists. Perhaps most importantly, though, is the ultimately meme-worthy chant used by the group that I still occasionally hear in my head to this day, even though it has been probably a couple decades at least since I've seen that episode. You belong to Cookie Cola. As well as the visual of the mice getting doused in the various fruit-flavored drinks during the ritual worships. Yep. It comes in orange, grape, and cherry. You belong to Coca-Cola. That's what I'm talking about, folks. You get a little musical aspect into it, you can create an earworm that'll last forever. I recommend Rescue Rangers if you have never seen it. I definitely recommend the game if you have a chance to pick up the Disney Afternoon Collection. Both the first and the second game are very enjoyable classic platformers with just enough difficulty that first-time players cannot guarantee themselves an automatic win. Yep, even if you have platform experience, even if you have retro gaming experience, Rescue Rangers will surprise you with some of the difficulty in the levels. Although, amusingly, most of the bosses are actually easier than the levels leading up to them. It's one of those weird platform games where they put so much effort into the levels themselves that the bosses almost seem like just kooky little bonus stages. Every single one of them is fought the same way. You pick up a ball and toss it at the boss while dodging their own projectiles. Projectiles may vary, the boss's movement patterns may vary slightly, but that's probably the one flaw of the first game especially, is that the bosses feel very redundant. Still, it is a game worth playing, especially after you binge the show, because you get that fun of going, hey, I recognize that character! Oh my god, I get to be Chip! I get to be Dale! And it's inherently two-player. You can get your buddy along. One's Chip, one's Dale. You're saving the day together. Because Rescue Rangers are all about teamwork. Good times, folks, good times. Still, when it's all said and done, everything's got to come to an end. As I said, the show only ran for less than 70 episodes, and when it's all said and done, it may live on forever in syndication and streaming options. Its legacy may live on forever in our hearts and souls, but the show's episode count was quite finite. And with that, hey, this look back ends as well. Still, we do encourage you to enjoy this video, enjoy next week's video, because while any given rambling may come to an end, we've already exceeded 60-odd episodes. In fact, we've exceeded 100 episodes. We're barreling to 200. And there's more Disney Afternoon shows to talk about in the coming months. Which one's going to be next month? Do you know? I know, but I'm not telling you. I'm going to make you come back and watch to find out. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any videos, you don't just got to like, you got to hit that notification bell. You got to subscribe so you get those lovely alerts every single time we ramble on Friday, every time we game stream on Tuesday, or anytime we drop any other content any other day of the week, because we care. We love our fans and we love making content for you. Best of all, while we want some rescue rangers in our life, we're never going to need the rescue rangers because roulette production always stays safe. I want you to stay safe, happy, and healthy as well until the next time I see you. And just like Chip, feel free to get yourself a fedora because they make everybody look more dashing. Bye-bye, folks.